video also if you want to be. Yeah,
Yes,
we can
fantastic.
see
Can you
you.
guys see me? Okay,
Yeah, we can.
fantastic.
Okay, so shall we start our AMA?
Absolutely. I just wanted to say, glad to be here and glad for everyone listening in and spending some time with us today.
Okay, brother. So first of all, please introduce yourself with us. How and when you have started in crypto, and how did you get involved? And most important, what's your role in Loot NFT? And also introduce your team with us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So my name is James Dushan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Loot NFT. I'm also the CEO of my family investment company called Jucorp XDM. I have a background in engineering, law, and finance, and have advised a number of project companies and governments in the field of blockchain since 2014. So I'm an early adopter of Bitcoin, not a very, very early adopter. I learned about Bitcoin in 2012 and basically dug deep into it in late 2013. And never really looked back. In the past, I was also the former managing partner of blockchain venture building company and advisory firm, Sutton Stone, in the United States. I also was a representative of the Mauritian government to the United States for venture capital and blockchain. I currently advise Shisha Finance in the UAE. This is a DeFi in the DeFi space, and also advisor for the Blockchain Climate Institute, which is under Secretary General Alastair Mark, doing a number of things in at the crossroad of blockchain and climate finance. Also sit on a number of boards of companies, and like that sort of sums up, very briefly a career. For me, I first learned, as I said before, I first learned of Bitcoin in 2012 while I was researching a patent application. And what struck me about Bitcoin, and the reason why really it changed my life till now, is that I realized that, after a few months, obviously, because it was, back then there was not the way that it is now. I realized that for the first time we had a form of non-confiscable form of value, and the first time a digital representation could be made scarce, and that value could be earned and transacted without being owned by humans. That totally fascinated me. In 2014, I was a volunteer at the first Bitcoin conference in Texas. I saw the evolution of Ethereum from Vitalik's speech at that conference back then. Was also a director of the Coin Initiative, which was a non-profit for the adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, back in 2014. Also gave my first, incidentally, my first lecture on blockchain technology at the University of Houston in 2014 as well. And that basically led us to create Sutton Stone, which became one of the fastest, I would say one very fast growing company in the blockchain advisory space, especially in 2017 when the 2017, especially when the ICO boom was happening. So we learned a lot of things here. So to me, if I can sum this up, blockchain and Bitcoin, more importantly, shows the aspects of decentralization that that we're all heading towards, and that changed my career to till now. My co-founders, talking about my co-founders, teams are extremely important in the space, in any business for that matter. And the way that teams work is, you can't have, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have, 100, 100 of the best experts in the world, that the team actually works well together. So what we have is a very strong team that's worked together in the past. A little bit like Ocean's 11 coming back, from the shadows to work on Loot NFT. But we've worked very well together. Lance Baker is the founder of Loot Pool, which is one of the top 5, I think, depending on the day, staking pools in the Cardano ecosystem. Suyash, who's our CTO, built his own permission Ethereum-based blockchain back in 2018, and it's still running today. In fact, it's on top of which we deploy Loot NFT products. And we have the chance to have worked with probably one of the most brilliant young artists in Africa, that labors over detail, and because it's in the NFT space, and look and design and detail are important within our ecosystem. We've got a team of about, I would say, about 30 people now, which includes Cyril Desai from Yishit Desai law firm, which is basically leading the charge in blockchain from the regulatory perspective in India. Mario Norfal as well from IBC and NFT Tech, which is a soon to be publicly listed companies, and a number of heavy hitters in the industry. So our team is built for the purpose of what we're actually doing. And I think you asked me what's my role at Loot NFT. I think I can sum this up really simply by saying I set the pace in all aspects of business towards achieving the goal that we've set for ourselves. And more importantly, the way that I see leadership is about helping teams, your people, the people that are working with us, whether it's employees, contractors, or advisors, basically achieve their tasks and ways of solving problems, etc. So I'm not here solely to set the pace, but I'm also here to help the people achieve what they're here to do with us. So hopefully, Kamran, that provides a brief overview and addresses all your questions. Kamran? Kamran?
Thank you very much, brother. And you have more than 9 years experience, brother, and that's become a, and you are quite.
I beg your
Thank you
pardon?
very much, brother.
Sure.
And you are a pretty well experienced. Yeah, I am
Yes,
speaking, brother. Can you hear
I've been,
me?
yes, I can. I've been around the block, so to speak, pardon the pun.
Hello. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes, yes, I can. Yes, yes, I can.
Can you hear
Can you
me?
hear me?
Can you hear me,
Yes,
brother?
yes, I can. I can. Yes, can you guys hear me at all or no? Can you hear me?
Okay, okay. Yeah. So you are absolutely.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You are absolutely right. BTC has changed life of many people, and yes, I can hear you, brother.
Sure. Maybe I might
So,
switch. No, I can absolutely hear you,
uh,
Kamran.
okay, brother. So my next question is all about your.
Hello?
Yes, brother. Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes?
Okay, brother. I think today Telegram is having a lot of issues today, and so I apologize for that. So my next question is all about your project Loot NFT. That tell me with all its features and current activities that are going right now, and with milestone you have achieved so far as a project. And there are hundreds of NFT projects right now, and how you will make your prominent place in the market.
Absolutely. And please tell me if you can't hear me. Maybe I can switch headphones as well. Okay, you can hear me, right?
Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me? This is yes. So I
I
can.
can hear you perfectly.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
So if I understand, you've got
Yes.
three questions. Okay. So the first one is telling you about the project Loot NFT. And the milestones, if I understand, like three, need to unpack this, right? So the project of Loot NFT, the milestones, and, I suppose the last one is the competitive space that we're in right now in terms of
Yes.
NFTs, correct? Okay. So if you can't hear me, please let me know, okay? And I'll switch gears. So just very simply, Loot NFT is the company behind Lootverse, And to break down from a big picture perspective, Lootverse is a decentralized fantasy parallel world that you can access virtually or in person. And within this parallel world, you've got NFT-powered attractions, whether it's marketplaces, whether it's a virtual parliament, whether it's a shopping district, and participants effectively battle for NFTs. They will soon be able to govern in a virtual parliament, which is a decentralized parliament, and mine a currency to buy items such as rare land in the metaverse, granting real world benefits. I think that sets out the context of what we're talking about. The answer is telling you guys about Loot NFT with all its features and current activities is a very, very big things, because you have to understand that we could talk for hours about this, because we've got something like 5 white papers. We've got a parallel world that we've built with 6 sites. We've got, a book that was written about it for like 100 pages. We've got 1 patent pending application. So it's really very detailed. So instead of actually going through, as you say, all the features, what I'll focus on is a few salient features. The first one is we have not raised any capital and are not seeking investments as well. We were very fortunate to be in this space very early, and what we're doing needs to be without the influence of VCs or investors or anything like this. We want to make something that is a showcase of decentralization and blockchain. We have also, very unlike other projects, we have also no team token allocations, no reserves, and none of the things that we offer are available for free unless we pay for it, right? So giveaways, etc. The team itself is paying for it. And when you consider that all the revenues into the ecosystem then get split amongst all the virtual plot owners in our metaverse, it basically gets you the understanding that what we're building is a showcase for blockchain activity and for being a step or a brick in that industry moving forward. So for me also, we released our MVP in July of this year, and we were profitable after 4 days as a business. Unlike most white papers that you see out there, what we did was we built the product and then iterated our white paper. In fact, the team was going so fast that the white paper needed to be updated to match the current speed of technology that we were releasing. And my goal really is to showcase the full extent of NFTs. NFTs today, when you think about it, is what people see is a number of artworks and designs, etc. But at the end of the day, for me, NFTs is bigger than that. NFTs as revenue-bearing instruments, as a DeFi play, as a play in revenue instruments, like soaking up value from economic activity, is where this is going. I've been in the NFT space since 2017 when CryptoKitties basically stopped us from launching one of our projects back then, and I've seen this evolution, and it's for me that's what we're experimenting in. That's why we're pushing the boundaries of what is currently being done in NFTs today. So it was important for me to set this up so that people understand that the driver behind it is the showcase of blockchain technology, what NFTs can do, what cryptocurrencies can do within a world, but in a way that we think it should be built without the friction, etc. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I think the second big portion of it is to understand the structure of how Lootverse operates, because everything in this is actually what you will see is actually different from the way that other people are actually working in this space. So you need the structure is Lootverse is broken up in many attractions like a giant game. And one of these attractions is an NFT marketplace where people bid and get issued a cryptocurrency, a currency, like a native currency of the world. So that's the only way these currencies that's consumed within the world actually get get issued. So you once it's issued, now the second component of this is you can redeem those tokens for in-world items, etc., NFTs, and the economy basically starts. The way that we manage our circulating supply is the bidding at the auctions, which issues that currency, and then when the currency is used within our stores, it basically gets redeemed and burned. So our currency or our circulating supply is always in a constant flux of up and down based on the economic activity of what we have. The third big block, I suppose, what people are seeing now is what we call the Loot Arena, which is our mining site. So in the Loot Arena, we've had to innovate on NFT products itself, an NFT marketplace. So there, miners bid in time-based auctions to issue those, to mine those currency that's going to be used in the world. And in doing so, unlike Bitcoin that pays electricity company, etc., in doing so, in the process of mining our, what we call native currency, which is what we call the LTT, they are actually the proof of their play actually pays creators from around the world. So imagine a mining protocol where you bid on NFTs, which are themselves, sort of registered block. And once the auction ends, it issues the native token. But in the process, it changes the lives of people from around the planet, whether it's creators or good causes. So that's a central component of Lootverse, and one of the attractions that people are involved in today. So when I address the next one in terms of the milestones, we already have a working product. We're issuing a number of feature releases and product releases. And these are coming much like any company, any software company releases software releases feature upgrades over time. So we already have the product basically built. So in terms of milestone for us, what we were able to achieve is to set out a thesis at the start of our MVP in July. And now this MVP, we're starting to get analytics. Our economy is basically working. You can see that we've issued 130,000 or mined 130,000 LTTs, as in the participants in these auctions mined them. And we've now got a circulating supply of about 60,000, which means that people are basically redeeming and circulating within that economy. As to NFT, hundreds of NFT projects right now, looking at it broadly from an industry perspective, NFTs is enjoying an explosion of innovation. There's hundreds of projects, hundreds of experiments out there on multi-chains, various different levels. And the way that I look at this is, yes, there's 100 different types of projects, and some of those projects are not built the same. They're trying different things. For us, what is important is, the ability to have a business, have an economy that's working internally and making sure that this business is properly managed over time. So when people get into the Loot Arena and start mining, or next week our shopping district Satoshi's Lounge is going to go live, when they go in there, they can feel as part of this parallel world as an economic activity. And what we've seen so far is that we've changed the lives of creators and artists around the world, really, and people that are playing with us or engaging with our product, they're very, very entertained. So for me, organic growth is extremely important. What we're doing, no one else is doing, as far as I know, and the experiment is now being proven in thesis in reality. So I think I'll stop it there.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you have explained very well that you are very, very different from other NFT projects that are in the market right now. And one more thing, you are a pioneer in NFT world for sure, 2017 and so.
Mhm.
So next question is all about events and achievements that are still waiting for you on your roadmap. And
Mhm.
something that we do in our last question, that beyond roadmap also share some secrets with us that are cooking behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So
no problem. Like that's fine. So the roadmap. Let me just tell you where we are right now. So our mining site has been operating for the past 3 months. It's issued a number of LTT. There's been recirculation, staking, all the stuff that people know about, and it's also the most complex part of Lootverse. This attraction in Lootverse is also the most complex, right? Because it's like Bitcoin mining, right? Like you can be a miner, you can issue the currency, which obviously is very lucrative at the or you can say, hey, I'm not going to worry about the mining site. I just want to buy the tokens to buy my plots and be somebody in the metaverse, in our world. So where we are right now is that we've issued that protocol, the issuance, etc. Like it's been working for 3 months, and what we're doing now is that since we now have these tokens out, we can start releasing the next iterations in the roadmap, right? Obviously, it makes sense because without the tokens being mined, there is nothing for them to be used in the world, right? There's no there's no currency in the world. So where we are now is our fantasy fund, which is like a real estate fund for the world, which has been released a few months ago, like 2 months ago, is now going to start introducing the public sale event, right? The public plot sale. And that's going live next week. Our shopping district, Satoshi's Lounge, as far as I can say, should be going live next week as well. Our world ecosystem has been live for about a month, but now it's going to start getting a number of activities in there, and that's very likely going to start next week as well. So from a roadmap perspective for us, I think people have to understand that unlike most projects, we are running a business in a highly innovative fashion, as well as releasing feature upgrades at the same time, which is unlike most projects out there, because now we're getting real feedback and we're fixing real things as we go along with the support of our community. So when you put milestones, and I've seen this with many projects, I've advised dozens of projects in the space. When you put milestones in and you're running a business at the same time, there's a time competition that happens. If you have a problem with one of the earlier releases, you need to have a team to look at that, as well as you need to progress on the other side. And if that environment is extremely innovative, where no one's been where you've been before, those timelines and roadmaps basically have to adjust. It's just part of life, and it's just the way things work. We've limited time and the resources that you can have available as part of your team at that particular point in time. So for us, fortunately though, like our timelines have been basically respected, and up until about a week ago, I would say, where we had to do some upgrades, etc. I think we're about a week out, but we're catching up. A week or 2 weeks out, I would say, but we're catching up. So on the timeline for us, you've got the fantasy fund, which looks just like a real fund, but it's obviously for the virtual world. We've got the shopping district that's coming out, all three next week: shopping district, world, and fantasy fund. We start our plot sale. I believe in the next few weeks, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and moving forward. Then in quick succession in the timeline, there's going to be we're releasing the parliament, which is the member governance unit. So within the world, the parameters of how people interact with each other is effectively governed by a member governance group, much like in decentralized ecosystem, that is called the parliament. So we've got the parliament coming in. We've got a number of stars, NFTs coming in as well, and a number of products that's going to go into our shopping district. So one of the things that you asked is, secrets that are cooking behind the scenes. I'll frame it this way. We are working with a number of partners out there that are going to, that we want, and we're collaborating to expand the capabilities of this parallel fantasy world that we've created. and a number of things are gonna soon come to bear, and you will see this in the announcement. But the one that I can announce right now is that our parallel world, this fantasy thing, has now partnered with a government overseas to create the first African NFT gallery, where all the NFTs that we hold in our custody that are physical item, because we deal with both physical and digital, are going to be displayed. And it's a really momentous event for a parallel world, fantasy world, to handshake with a real government, to showcase NFTs that are effectively, almost like crossing the boundaries from a parallel metaverse into the real world. And just to say, we've got a plaque that says, we thank the government. I won't announce whose government, but it'll come out next week. But we thank the government for agreeing to participate within the first cross-world NFT displays on Earth, right? And these are the sorts of things that we are sort of framing, and the community members that we have now are very excited about it. So I'll stop it there.
Thank, thank you very much. And I want to sum up your answer with these words. I can see your success in near future, brother. You
Thank
are very, very intelligent and your ideas are so awesome. So we have completed our introductory questions and now it's time for community questions. I will unmute some of our members and they will ask questions. Are you ready for it?
Sure. Absolutely. Let's go.
Sure, sure. So, hello, folks. Please raise your hands if you want to ask any question. You have 1 minute, please. And I have already unmuted one member. Please ask your question, Sadia Mubin. Please unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Hello, how are you?
Very well.
Your project seems very promising. My question is that if loot can be staked and is used for voting on the governance of the protocol, how many loots should I have to participate to be able to vote? Is there other uses of the token in the ecosystem?
So let me just understand this, break it down so that I understand the question, right? So how many tokens do you need to participate? I think is one of the question, and the second part I didn't quite get. How many people are participating in the ecosystem? Is that correct?
Yeah,
Please
yeah.
repeat your question.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I got it. How many tokens does she need, and how many participants are in the ecosystem right now? So we're growing organically, right? And the amount of tokens. Think about it this way: we as a company, we do not even own a single of our own tokens because they come into being, much like Bitcoin, that is basically being mined. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, what are these tokens that are being mined being used for, in order for you to, from your perspective, to see how many tokens should you have in order to, to buy things, or to get plots and all those sorts of things, right? So right now what's happening is that people are bidding in time-based auction to mine those tokens. So those tokens go in, and according to a mining rate, you get issued those tokens. So that's probably the cheapest way and the best way to actually get tokens right now, because you can't actually buy them or sell them out there right now, because obviously we're trying to mine a certain amount before the economic activity kicks in. So the best thing for you to do now, it would be to join the Loot Arena or Loot NFT platform, the mining platform, and have fun in these auctions. Try to get an NFT, and in the process, you're mining those tokens, right? And those tokens are yours. When we open the Satoshi's Lounge and the world next week, the plots are going to go on offer at 50, what we call LTT, which is our native currency. And depending on the mining rates that you have, or depending on the price, that's where it starts. Right now, the price to mine one LT is around $5 for one. So 50 LTs will get you a plot, or should get you close to a plot. And so that's the sort of boundaries that you're playing with right now. I can tell you that the people that's been mining LTT right now in the arena, they do not want to sell, which is quite interesting, right? Like if you go around and ask, hey, can I buy this? They absolutely do not want to sell. So that's why I'm saying the best way is to go in and have fun in the auction, mine some LTs, and keep it there. The second part is how many people, how are we growing this ecosystem? I think this is a superbly interesting question for me, because we are not doing any shilling. We are not doing any. In fact, we don't want it. We are growing a community from the ground up, and that is accelerating over time, right? And right now, what I can tell you is we've sold, you know, hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, I think it's probably about $200,000 worth of those NFTs. And our ecosystem, as we're starting to talk about what we're doing and people are going down the rabbit hole, is basically very sticky. People stick around and people are effectively that early adopter community, which is what we're seeing right now. So over time, our ecosystem is growing, but with real people. Like we don't, like you will see on our Telegram group, like, people coming in, and if they're not sort of engaging, or they have ulterior motives, it doesn't last long. So that to me, and the reason why it's important is when you look at the technology adoption in any project, there's two things that's happening in the broader cryptocurrency space. The first thing is people issue a white paper, and then they say, we are going to do X. And in between, they issue their tokens, and those tokens are speculated upon in the secondary market. It doesn't mean that, ultimately they'll be able to deliver on their promises. The way that we address things is we deliver first, and then we basically, our white paper catches up to us. So what the thing that I'm trying to say is, when people are doing it in this way, you're running a business and you're not running a future value projection. And when you're running a business and you see the economic activity, this sticks, and that creates the foundation for a very, very robust community. So right now, we've got about 1,000 people. We're still very early. We've got about 1,000 people in the arena, none of whom want to sell their mine tokens because they are waiting to buy plots in the metaverse. And like, as this starts growing, as people start understanding, as the word starts getting out, we expect a very massive uptick in our user base. I hope that provides a detailed answer, at least, to your question, and hopefully it does.
Okay, thank you. I got it.
And I want to add something that we are really tired of meme coins. We don't want to be a millionaire in one day. We love projects with strong basis.
Yeah, no, I get that, Cameron. Like, because what's happening out there, the way that things are doing is, I always say to people, if you want to buy a token at 2 cents and sell it for $200 tomorrow, we're not it. Like, maybe come back later on in the future. Right now, our project is imparting value because we have a product, we have a business. And the way you look at this is, does that value survive the crypto bear market? And does that value survive long term? As I said, for us, we're in this environment where we're already profitable as a business, and the profits are being shared across all plot owners within this metaverse. So anyway, just 2 cents.
Great stuff, Matt. I really love it. So our next member will be Shoaib. Shoaib, please unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Hi James,
Hey,
how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
How
That's
about you?
great. You have talked about 4880 NFT plots that made your world. Could you please brief about plots and how it will work?
Okay, yeah, sure. We're very different from most metaverses projects, right? Like, for us, we've got 4,880 plots that have different types of zonings. Each one of these plots grant you the ability to issue 4 NFTs, which basically tell the story of your plot. So let's just think about this for a minute. Like you get a plot, and the plot basically is managed from the fund, like you would do in the real world. Like we go to painstaking detail to make sure that it feels just like the real world. So you go into the fund, you have your plot there. It gives you the ability to mint 4 stories in time for your plot, which appears in the world. It's like you're taking a snapshot, which are themselves NFTs, and these NFTs are extractable to different chains. So that's the first thing. Once you've told the stories of your plot, each plot owner, whenever somebody comes into the ecosystem, gets a revenue bearing or revenue right over parts of the the incoming revenue into the world. So you're getting effectively a royalty or land rent from people coming in based on the plot that you have and your zoning. The second thing, it allows you to tell the story of your plot in time. And there's some really fantastic stories that are coming out, like, in the past, in the future, etc. And because the plots are limited, it means that you can only ever have a limited amount of those stories ever. So if you can think about it as, you're writing a book, a big book, each page made up of an NFT, and each NFT customizable by you, telling your story of the plot, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is that we'll soon start introducing traits for those plots, such as citizenships, businesses that can be built within those plots. For example, you could build we've got a license that can attach to your plots, like in the real world, that says, hey, you want to create Lugal, right? Instead of Google, you're able to do that, which searches the entire ecosystem, but you need one of those licenses tagged to your plots. Lastly, which is to me, which is probably the biggest differentiator that we have out there, is that those plots gives you a grant or a right to open a real world portal on Earth for people to walk through, like a theme park, to experience that parallel world. Currently, we've got 2 spots around Earth, which is basically you walk through the gates and you are in Lootverse, that plot in Lootverse. And what we're doing is we're seeing some interest from real estate developers and some people that want to basically buy a plot and set up, a corresponding sort of area, like, real world area, such that you can yourself, without the need of an avatar, go in much like a decentralized Disney World for crypto. So these things are coming in succession. The way that you need to think about those plots is what it allows you to do and what the benefits attached to them are to you. That's why we're seeing a lot of interest in those plots for various areas. And part of the reason as well is that it's limited in number. Once it's done, it's done. We can't issue anymore. Does that address your question? If you have a follow-up question, please, I'm happy to, Cameron, like, if that's okay.
Thank thank you very much. You explained it very well. Thanks.
Thank you.
So our next member will be Samina Khan. Khan, please unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Samina Khan, can you hear? I think she is. I think she is having any issues, so we will move forward. So our next member will be Formanite. Please unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
My question is that how loot auctions are different from traditional auction, and
Mhm.
what is the role of one as a bid unit, and how can it ensure to win valuable NFTs in the market?
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting question. What we've done with our marketplace, I'd like to think doesn't exist. Well, we've got a patent pending application over it, so I'd like to think that it doesn't exist anywhere. So the way that it works, the way that we looked at it was it broke the equation of what OpenSea and Rarible and Wax are doing. Because when you look at the value of an NFT today, I can break it down into very simple components. The value is equal to the brand of the artist or the person, etc., plus the intrinsic value, which is basically what they're doing with it. So on Loot NFT, what we've done is we've broken that equation. When we list an NFT for auction, it's a time-based auction, which basically means you've got a timer that goes down, that counts down to 0. And the rules of the game is that you can only bid one bid unit, which is a token, which is an accounting token that goes into these auctions at a time. So that basically means, and each one of those bid units are 20 cents. So that basically means you bid one, somebody else bids one, and the timer is going down all the way to 0. In the last 15 seconds, if a bid is received, it resets the timer back 15 seconds. What that means is that auctions could last hours, days, and in fact, the last auction lasted almost 7 days of constant 15-second bidding because a bid was received in the last 15 seconds, which reset the timer back and forth. And the last person to bid their one token when the timer expires gets the NFT. And that process is what we call mining, because we have something that's called mining ratios. So let's just say you bid 13 tokens, it issues one of the native currency of the ecosystem. Those bids that you put in those auctions are spent. You never get it back. In fact, it converts to that native currency. And if you win, so if you look at Bitcoin, the way that they do it, Bitcoin is the biggest game on the planet, right? It's a $1 trillion game where miners play a game to find a number. And if they find the number, they get to publish the block, and the block basically returns a Bitcoin reward. For us, it's very similar. Miners come in, bid at these auctions one at a time to try to get the NFT, but also to mine those tokens. So when the auction concludes, the person that's bid last, when the timer gets to 0, gets the NFT as a reward, and everyone else that has bid a certain amount gets issued those LTTs. What we've done, and this is called, Bitcoin has proof of work. Our protocol is called the proof of play. It proves that you've played in those auctions to try and get the NFT or mine your tokens. And as a reward, you get either the NFT if you win, or the tokens or the native currency that is issued for you for your bidding activity. The proof of play for us is really interesting because we turned an NFT, much like in Bitcoin, into a block. So once the NFT is basically sold on auction, that gets added to all prior NFTs that concluded before it or finished before it, and is chained together much like an NFT blockchain. And each time it gets chained together, that's when our ticket base or the reward gets issued in terms of whether it's the NFT or the LTT, which is our native currency. So the bid unit for us is simply an accounting unit. When you buy bid units to put in these auctions, it converts to the LTT, and if you win the auction, you get the NFT, right? So the bid unit itself is always at a fixed rate, right? It cannot fluctuate in value. It's just an accounting token. But the native currency that you issue out has a value, which is a market value. I hope that, if you have any follow-up questions on that.
Thanks, James.
No worries.
So our next member will be Senorita. Please unmute yourself and ask your question, please. I think she's missing. So we will move forward to our next member, and that will be Ali Hassan. Please ask your question.
Hello, you.
Hello, Ali. How are you?
I'm good. My question is, what are you expecting from LNFT at the end of this year? What will be Loot NFT next step? Is it profitable for an LNFT holders?
Yes. Okay. So what are we expecting at the end of the year? A few things. I can address this in multiple components. The first one is from a technological component, right? We have effectively by the end of the year all different sites that you can go to in the world, right, or in the in Lootverse, such as the Loot Arena. Loot Arena is already working. Satoshi's Lounge, as I said, the world and the fund basically gets full-blown release next week. We have other sort of destinations, much like arcades, right, in Lootverse that are coming out. So I expect all of them to be to some degree one or another completed by the end of the year, right? That's from the technology aspect, and I'm probably giving my CTO a heart attack right now by saying this because it's quite a big system, but we're fairly confident that we'll have most of these aspects, even if it's in an MVP format, released by the end of the year. So that's one. The second thing is from a profitable perspective, from an economic perspective, for the ecosystem, we're already profitable, right? So we are already running as a business. We're not a project. I think we've gone beyond that now, and so for us, it's about managing the internal economies more so than what's coming in from the outside. I'm expecting the internal economy to start kicking up in gear when we open the redemption pools, or what we call the sinks, for the LTT, which is Satoshi's Lounge. People are starting to buy stuff, NFTs or plots or licenses to do things in their plots, improve their land, etc. And once this happens, when they buy from Satoshi's Lounge, it gets burned off the system. So very simple way of thinking about this. Let's just say you've bid in those auctions, you've got 10 LTTs, and there's a plot available for 10 LTTs. You go in, you buy those plots, those LTTs get taken off the ecosystem, gets burned, so you need more mining operations to happen. So it puts the pressure on mining. And if it puts the pressure on mining, you now start having NFTs that goes for much, much, much higher values, because the ecosystem, the world, demands more of this native currency to be out there. So what I'm expecting is, right now we've issued something, about 130,000 LTTs have been mined in these auctions by our members. About 50%, more than 50%, have been burned already, or staked, or whatever. So it's taken off the ecosystem. So we still, like, without Satoshi's Lounge, without that burning operation really kicking into gear, we're already at less than 50% of circulating supply. So the expectation is when Satoshi's Lounge goes live, it starts to really drain the amount of LTs that get burned, which means that these auctions and the future artists that are basically in the arena through the mining process, right, gets more and more value as that circulation happens. So what I'm expecting is that we start seeing the birth of a parallel worlds economy in a metaverse, that basically does good, because the more LTT that's being sucked out of the ecosystem means that the more it needs to produce. It means that more talents from I'll tell you a little story from India, actually. More talents are being discovered, and more talented people around the planet are being paid for their talent, right? So that ecosystem for us should be in full gear, in full circulation by the end of the year. And now one of the big things that we're working on is the extraction of these LTTs for secondary market value. So we're building our own internal exchange to allow people to sell their tokens to people that don't want to mine, so they can just go buy plots directly, don't have to worry about the mining operation. So what we're looking at by the end of the year is this full nascent economy, as if we've crowdsourced the world, going through. For next year, what we are doing is starting to decentralize all of the components of this entire infrastructure. And that is a very, very difficult thing to do. It's set out in our patent pending application, and it's going to go in stages such that we've tested robustness with our current economic condition inside the world. And then you start decentralizing each module and looking forward, much, much forward in the future. Our goal is to create a fully decentralized, autonomous, parallel world. And that's a big vision. This comes with complications, etc. But we've got a roadmap. We've got a process to do this. The only thing we know is that it's going to be very hard to get there. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you very much, James. So next question will be last one, and you can select any member for you. So
Okay.
go ahead and choose a member for you.
I can't see the hands up. So how about you choose you choose one?
Okay, sure. I can choose one for you, and let me
Crypto
scroll
Girl.
a little bit.
I think Crypto Girl had her hand raised, right? Acknowledge Crypto.
1 minute. Acknowledge crypto. You are unmuted. You can ask your question. You are here.
Hello.
Oh, where she is. You can choose another one. So
Okay, just pick one. I can't.
yeah,
My
sure,
thing is.
sure, brother. Acknowledge is again here, so maybe she can speak. No, she can't.
Okay.
So last member will be Mohsin. Please unmute yourself and ask your question. It's Sayed Mohsin.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good.
Yes, I want to ask. Actually, I'm a very lazy investor. So, actually, I want to know about the plans, long-term plans, actually, how your project is in long term.
Mm-hmm. From a financial perspective, Siad? Okay, so long-term plans is I think one of the things that I've spoken about. Everyone is talking about decentralization, decentralized finance, decentralized everything, right? But there's a reality when you look at, and maybe that might be beyond the project, but I'll share this with you anyway. There are several things that go around decentralization, and most people sort of get 3 out of 4 right? Like the first one is the technology. Can the technology accommodate full decentralization? Our roadmap, our future vision is to be a decentralized ecosystem, right? But there's stages to be done in terms of usability, etc. So the first component is technology-wise, right? The second one is ease of use, which is basically a product market fit. Are people, very easily, can interact with the technology very easily? And the third one is really an interesting one because it's society, right? It's law and order, regulations, etc. So when you're looking at a business or project in the space, whether it's ours or other projects, you have to be able to see the balance between all three of them, right? So if you make it too hard for people from a technological side, they just don't get in, or they don't get it, they miss out, right? Or if you make it too easy, there's a balance. Is the technology really attractive? Can you do what you say you can do? And is what you're doing within the confines of society and the regulations out there? So these three must always balance. So, and the fourth element that most people miss is time. And when you're balancing those equations or those three different components, time plays a massive role, because what could be done yesterday and what can be done today will invariably change tomorrow. So as a team or as a business person, what you have to think about is how you go from where you are today with those three aspects and where you're going to end up in the future and where your vision ends up. So for us, what we're doing is, unlike most projects, is we're not rushing to create, multiple smart contracts, etc. What we want to do is to do it in stages. So the first stage is a semi-centralized, making sure that everything works well. The second stage is modularize and break down each one of these components. The third stage is using current technology a year from now to start refining everything. And then the last stage is, do you achieve your goal and your vision, yes or no? But throughout this entire process, you have to be profitable as a business. You have to offer value to people. So while our long-term goal is decentralization, we have a plan which is meticulous to get there, right? So that's from an economic perspective. The second thing I will say is this: our platform, all the revenues coming in gets distributed to plot owners, right? Like, so we are a plot owner as a company or as a person, but they all get distributed to plot owners. Now, the way that this is done is by buying those bonds or those bid units, right? So we have 500 million bid units that can be purchased that recirculates through our economy. So if you think about it in this way, we can have a certain amount of recirculation of bid units throughout the economy, which basically, if we were at capacity, then that could be $100 million a week, which is the full value is about 5.2 billion a year. But the actual LTT that produces the economic value out of that is vastly different. So it could be a lot higher than that. So these things have to be balanced out properly, right? Like, so you've got that, you've got that internal economy kicking. And I will say one last thing, maybe that helps in other projects as well. When you issue a token that has very little utility, what happens is you've got a lot of speculations, pump and dumps, etc. The way that we're doing things is we're circulating our economy internally within the metaverse first, so that when it basically opens up for the secondary or for a sale out there, you already have the economic activity. So it provides a robust price floor for the token. It is based on real business fundamentals rather than speculatory purposes. So with that, I think we can wrap it up. Great questions, guys.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you,
And
James. Thank you.
absolutely, that was a wonderful session with you. I have learned many things from you. So thank you very much for joining us today. You can share all project related links in our chat so our community can join in your
Fantastic.
Telegram official.
I do have one last announcement, is that we have a little giveaway that we're paying for with a link from our founders. And if we can, so the first 20 people get $10 worth of bond immediately in their accounts once they sign up with that link. So if we can post that, that would be fantastic. Thanks, Gabriel.
You can pull all the related links, no problem at all.
Fantastic. Hey, guys, thank you so much for the time. I really enjoyed spending some time with you today. And if you have, please join our Telegram group, Loot NFT. And if you have any questions or anything like that, there's a bunch of people within our community that'll be happy to help.
Sure, you will get some strong hands for sure.
Thank you, sir.
So, thank you very much. Take care. Goodbye.
Thanks, Cameron. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.